Hello, test. Okay.
So what's interesting is I spent a bit of time with these two gentlemen who I met last night at dinner and today. They actually seem very different in their worldviews, and I would say also how you approach things. So I'm very excited, and I want a bit of a fiery debate, please. I like that, and I think let's keep it exciting. So let's start off by a few introductions. Nick, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Gabe. Love being here. It's always a good excuse to come fly to Rome and spend some time with your friends, which is, what are we doing here? I forget. I'm mainly just here for the parties. So I'm Nick. I'm CEO of a company called Provocative. We build data centers that actually pull CO2 out of the atmosphere. So the goal is to make extraordinarily carbon negative data centers. We think that the problem of decarbonizing the planet is one of, really at some point you have to move the entire Earth's atmosphere through a filter. It can be the ocean, it can be some synthetic biology, it can be a bunch of plants like we're doing now, or it can be something man-made. We're choosing the whole man-made route. So we build a ton of fans, we cool a lot of computers, and then we suck all the CO2 out of that airflow. And the same heat that the chips are generating provides the heat that our process needs to actually remove the CO2 from the filters and then sell it to be drank in seltzer water and Coca-Cola and beer, but eventually actually be sequestered in the ground. So that's what we're doing.
Don't worry, I'll ask all the questions so you guys understand what that means. Okay, a lot of that is very technical. Nick is an incredible scientist and brilliant entrepreneur, but we're going to distill it so that we can really understand what's happening in this AI infrastructure world and how you're making it green. And that's my job today. So you guys all leave going, okay, that's why it can also be green. This is what AI infrastructure is. Do you want to go next? And then
Sure. Buongiorno a tutti. Per l'italiano, io sono Pierre. So I'm Pierre. I'm actually Swedish. I sound very English, British. I live in London for a long time. And together with my co-founder, Vaughan, that's over there, we started a platform which is helping companies measure their emissions. And therefore, we can help them become more efficient. And at the same time, reduce their carbon. That's what we're doing. And we went live this June. So, this sounds like we could actually partner, potentially. We could be on your platform, but yeah, we'll work on that.
So what's interesting is I've actually built an AI company in the sustainability world, and I'm also building a company which builds AI infrastructure in frontier markets. So I understand both of their problems and what they're solving for. And what I want to do today is understand, geopolitically, we're sitting in Europe, we're sitting in Rome, everything's been about green, but we're getting all this negative news from the US that, let's build, let's drill, baby, drill. And then I just flew in from Abu Dhabi, where everything's super focused on sustainability still. And you have people from China, Russia, India, Central Asia, Africa. They're still focused on green. They're still focused on sustainability, and they are also building AI infrastructure. So, Nick, if I can turn to you and say, what is going on? How do you see it from a US perspective? We're sitting in Europe. What does AI infrastructure in this green world? Is it green? Is it not green? Can you just help us all understand what is going on?
Well, so this was happening in the US too, where the Bitcoin miners actually kind of pioneered this route of helping finance sustainable energy projects because they couldn't get enough energy, they needed it dirt cheap, and so they started going to the middle of Texas and Wyoming and Arizona, and they would partner with a renewable energy project and say, hey, we will buy all the energy you can produce, anything we don't use, you can sell back to the grid, and that was great, because one of the big problems you have with any project is getting that first big anchor customer that you can take to the bank and say, hey, I've got a customer, they're going to pay me, give me a loan. please, thank you, Mr. JP Morgan. We see kind of, now it's kind of, you've got the same problem in AI, moving on from Bitcoin, where it's, hey, this could be a crash, it's extremely volatile, where banks are charging like 13% interest rate. So you have this massive financing problem in AI, and sustainability actually helps solve the banking problem of AI data centers, where whether it's credits or government credits, or in our case, long-term contracts for CO2, this other revenue that's not just AI, which kind of no one knows how to underwrite, is a huge asset when it comes to deploying infrastructure. And so that's a global problem. And Europe has extremely sophisticated banking. So the US is kind of behind in some ways.
That's absolutely right. To give you an idea, when you're building AI infrastructure, when you first enter, let's say with a country, there's a checklist, like anything. Am I going to finance this large infrastructure? And actually the questions, as you can imagine, a lot of it's like building anything. Why would you build a building that is going to be, that's not going to last a long time? That's the same principle. So it is very much about who's going to lend to you if you're going to destroy water or whatever, in the local ecology. So,
but
okay.
If I started my platform or start my business in the US now, would I be able to get a grant from?
No.
Okay.
No. There's even, like, at the federal level, they're blocking state-level programs that support green stuff. It's extremely toxic environment in the U.S. for anything green or whatever. On the bright side, we love capitalism and making money in the U.S. So if you print cash, you can build really, really, really fast, which is pretty cool.
100%. So I'm curious to hear from a Swedish, British perspective. They're building in the US. What is going on in Europe? I mean, we're here.
Yes, I forgot to say that I'm half Guyanese. Okay. And, my mum would be very unhappy if I didn't mention that. So what I think is happening is obviously there's lots of directives. There's the Green Deal that's saying, let's go ahead and do this stuff. But businesses aren't really being informed properly about what they can get out of it. They're just being told to reduce their carbon and just make it happen by 2050, follow this line, when actually they can become efficient while they're doing it. And actually sustainability isn't just about sustainability of the planet, but of your business. So if you can do that at the same time as you're reducing carbon, suddenly it's a win-win situation, and people see money, and they're saving money, and actually it's good for everybody. And so I think that message isn't coming through to smaller businesses or medium or any size really. It's just, we need to offset this somewhere and fast. Let's buy some forest. So for me, that needs to change, and the message needs to become more about how you can improve your business at the same time as you become green.
What's the challenge is, I see a challenge in everything sustainability related, it not being communicated to serve the national interest and people's real needs. So I'm curious really to hear from you both. How do we make sure that it is realistic and it's serving, like Maloney, I love her because she's so realistic. She's such a ball of energy. She's such a powerhouse. And she explains things because it serves her people. And how do we make sure that something so actually important serves your country and people that you're representing and the businesses? And how do we better explain what's going on? Because, yeah, Nick.
Well, maybe a good way to approach this would be, so I'm a business. I have, I'm a data center. I consume stupid amounts of power, so much power. The grid has a mix of renewables but a lot of natural gas. So we're buying servers from Taiwan and shipping them overnight. We got these copper cables everywhere. I like, we say we're carbon neutral, trying to be, but we're not doing anything to track our scope 1, 2, or 3 emissions, mainly because, honestly, when I talk to people building platforms, it feels like homework. It's like, I'm trying to do a good thing right now, why are you making me slow down to go do homework and tell you how bad I'm doing right now, when I'm trying to be good in the future? So I'd be interested in how you talk to your clients about this problem, because to your point, when I hear sustainability, I don't hear sustainable business practices. I hear shit. Someone's telling me what to do.
Yeah, it's a good summary. Well, what we found as well when we started what we're doing is that we had no idea about it. We were kind of like you. We were like, how do we make this problem go away? Can I just pay someone? And I don't have time for this. And as we went through the process, we met many carbon consultants who were like, well, actually, what you don't see is the fun part of my job, which is after I've collected all this data about you, and I know all the stuff, I know about your cables, where you bought them, everything you do, I can come to your business and say, those servers that you're getting from over there, you can get them from right here, because if you do the research, blah, 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 blah. And that's the part of the job, the part of what they do, which I find really fascinating, which is they change your view because you think, I'll give an example everyone could understand, is like Nando's, a big company, they order their foods from everywhere. And one ingredient change by a carbon consultant changed costs massively that they hadn't really thought about. They were just ordering stuff from everywhere. And then suddenly they looked at the graph of what they were ordering and from where, and they said, you could order that from right next door. And those are small changes that have big changes.
I have so many thoughts on supply chain issues.
Oh, well, yes, and let's face it, I mean, a realistic perspective is that sustainability, green, is really how do you localize and make sure you bring your supply chains closer. But the thing is, in Europe, you say things in a way that's very palatable, very elegant. But I think Trump is doing exactly the same thing, but explicitly saying what he's doing, which is let's bring supply chain home. So do we think there's a divergence in, are all heads of state trying to do the same thing, which is bring supply chains closer home? Let's make sure we have nuclear. Let's make sure we have, we're independent from dependencies. But we're just communicating it differently. It's the European way versus the American way. Nick, America, Europe?
I think one of the things that I didn't really understand about my own country until I started building a physical infrastructure company is how big the United States is. We make CO2 and we sell it to Coca-Cola. Usually it is pulled out of the ground and then trucked for 4 days to the 4 corners of the US. And so for every ton of CO2 that's trucked, you're emitting 4 tons of CO2, getting it where it needs to go. Whereas if I build a data center in the UK, with the UK is 600 miles, 700 miles across? That's considered local in the US. The entire country. You could truck it back and forth in the UK, and that's considered a local delivery in the United States. We have a major problem getting stuff around, and Europe doesn't have that problem, which is really, really cool. So like the automotive supply chain, for example, in the UK is extraordinary. That's why all the Formula One teams are around here. We can't really do that in the US, and so whether it's green or sustainable or about jobs or whatever it is, it's just really hard to build stuff in the US because we're so big. We need more local manufacturing so that we can move and iterate faster, especially since we're building more deep tech startups.
So you think Trump is right?
I don't know who Trump is. What?
Yeah. I think generally Europe is on the right path. I think that, if I'm honest, I think that it's a very aggressive path, which many businesses will say, we can't do that. We can't do that with what we have, the tools we have right now. So I think there should be another path, which is about the tech and engineering and becoming faster at building the right tech and engineering to support these businesses to get there. Because right now, you can't see it happening in the timeline that they've been given. And it's a bit unfair to just say, do this now. It's going to cost you more money than you can afford and keep your business going and do everything else at the same time and put the kids to bed as well and stuff like that.
So I want to zoom out a bit. Having just literally come from the center of what global trade at the moment, landed in Dubai, went to Abu Dhabi. Literally everyone is there. Everyone from Russia, China, Middle East, Africa, Europe, US. I'm curious what you both think when there's so much trade happening, there's so much positivity, so much energy, and we're talking about, and by the way, China is very pro-green. This is a long-term strategy. They're not going to pollute their people's lungs. Their people will leave, they will revolt. So again, why are we not framing and understanding that the rest of the world is moving ahead and actually greening the world? Why are we even questioning it? I'm curious why we're even questioning it. Why are we in this? So I'm curious from both of you.
Yeah, it's weird traveling outside the U.S. and I was just in Brazil at an energy summit, and Rio has a 1.5 gigawatt, 100% renewable AI facility. They're expanding to 5 gigawatts this year. We get pulled to Abu Dhabi all the time, Japan, Singapore, Nairobi. Like everyone is actually doing stuff, and it's cheaper and more efficient to build renewables, whether it's geothermal or modular nuclear or whatever it is, it's better. And I do feel like we've got a lot of noise in the US because we're big and we yell, and we got Trump and the orange guy just, talking all the time about stuff. No idea. I don't know what he's saying either, by the way.
He is pushing nuclear. I mean, massively.
I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, he's pushing nuclear more than anyone.
I really want a little modular nuclear reactor. If you can give me one, that would be awesome. So, when I travel, I'm super optimistic about data centers in general. But in general, anything that uses massive amounts of power, I think the rest of the world is kind of nailing it, and it's just going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like these things need to be proven and shown, and I don't understand why the US isn't following. Like, honestly, it's obvious that it's working well in many countries, and as you just said. Is it down to the fact that there's enough oil left to keep this going? Are those supply chains already in place and contracts and money's gone into pockets, and therefore that's it? We just have to carry on with oil for 50 years. And, countries like, I mentioned Guyana before, they've just, struck oil. So the lives are going to change there. It's amazing for them, but isn't it just continuing with the same process that we've been doing for forever? How do we stop it? I don't know the answer to that, other than showing everyone what to do.
This density problem of where populations are in the U.S. is unique, though. The U.S. is such a weird. If you look at a distribution, it's hard to transmit energy. A really good way to move energy around is put it in a barrel and light it on fire somewhere else. Europe is smaller. Africa's got giant cities. Like a small town in Asia is the size of New York City. I mean, we have a huge problem about the way energy is consumed in the US that makes it very hard to build batteries and do renewables. And I love renewables, but we have a problem comparing the way the rest of the world does stuff to the US. Like, I don't think we should be looking at the US as an example of almost anything that has to do with living or transportation or energy or anything.
So I think for a lot of people here are hearing about AI, data centers, the consumption of energy. I'm fascinated by what you're doing. And can you explain to us the AI infrastructure stack? And, and then can you tell us how you're making it green? I think it will be relevant for everyone here.
Sure. I mean, arguably, you've built more AI infrastructure stacks than I have, but you have a few things going on. In AI, you have two main things. You have to build these big models, which is called training, And then you actually have to use these big models for serving ads on Facebook. And that's called inference. And they're two completely different models. In this training world, you have these, you don't know how long it's going to take to make a good model. It's experimental, it's design, it's research. And so you build these gigantic hyperscale data centers in Texas or Wyoming, use tons of power, and then at the end, OpenAI spits out a model, and it goes, here you go, here's GPT 4.5, or they make up whatever number. And so that's one way of doing things. On the other hand, you have inference, where you can have these smaller data centers, closer to people, sitting right on top of networks, and so you can serve things really fast and get your Netflix recommendations immediately. We are focused on that other side. So if you take an inference data center, it's maybe 10 to 40 megawatts. Nowadays, they're built mostly out of shipping containers. You hook up power, you hook up a really big fiber connection, you fill that thing up with these AI servers. These are 250-pound beasts. I was talking with a robotics company here. I was like, we're lifting these things. It takes 3 people. If you drop it, you lose 300 grand. I mean, it's not fun. So robot would love one. And that's really it. On those servers, you have models running. There's LLMs and these different things people do, but they're really just spitting out words. They're called tokens, and those tokens are sometimes converted to audio. And
So how are you
video.
making it green?
How are we making it green? We build our own data center. So instead of a shipping container, we have our own shipping container that the servers go in. There's a big fan on one side. Air goes through, cools those servers. Those servers take mass amounts of cooling. They generate so much heat. And they are so loud. They're as loud as a 747 behind the engine. It's honestly, we need hearing protection when we're like within 100 feet of these things. And then the air flows through carbon capture filters, and they look just like, honestly, they look like a normal cooling system, except our radiators are special, and inside is a material that absorbs CO2. And then the hard part is actually getting that CO2 out. It needs some heat, so we use the heat from the servers to get it out, and then we bottle it up and we sell it to Coca-Cola. And that's how it's green, because it pulls CO2 out of the air.
So, and if everyone, again, the AI infrastructure world is, we're gonna, if anyone wants to talk about it, come find us. We're happy to chat about it, Nick and I. And then, do you have any final remarks? Do you want to go?
No, not really, but come and find me, come and talk to me. I'm going to talk to all of you anyway, so can't get away from me. But yeah, no, it's been really nice, so thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Let's kick off. Thank you.